Welcome back, everyone, to the Disaster Tough podcast, where we share insights into the big plays and right calls of leadership. We dive deep into the stories, lessons learned, and ideas that will help you in the field. Let's go. Welcome back to the Disaster Tough podcast. I'm your host, John Scardena. I'm so excited for this week's episode. I have an incredible opportunity to interview Chris Housley. She is an emergency manager with the United States Air Force. She and I were just together in Vancouver, Washington. That was a blast. It was really cool to see her. One very special note is she was already famous with our group because I was in Baltimore with a hazmat symposium or a hazmat conference, and I'm walking around, and all of a sudden I see emergency manager plastered on the back of a shirt and the Readiness lab, like the next level emergency management icon on it. And I got so pumped, and I came over and said, "Hey, you're wearing my shirt." And she was like, "Who are you?" In fact, I just said, "Hey, can I take your picture?" And that was even more awkward. But I was so excited. She figured out who I was. I figured out who she was. And we're off to the races. So with that kind of fun introduction and very cool background, Chris, welcome to the show.
Good morning. That's actually how I introduced you to all of my friends, too. The guy who wanted to just randomly take a picture of me.
Socially adept is one way to describe me. But, I was so excited to see you wearing that shirt, and proud that you're wearing some EM swag. So that's pretty cool that you're doing that for us. Yeah.
Awesome. We appreciate it being out there for us because there's not a lot out there. Fire department's got it all over the place, but not us, man.
Yeah, what's up with that? You can go to tour shops in New York City, and you'll see like FDNY on them. Like anybody can just buy an FDNY shirt. I would love for one day people just be like, "Ooh, I need an emergency management shirt." Like NLEM, like next level emergency management. Let's go. So whatever, little dorky. Maybe one day. Goals, yeah. It took 100 years for them to get that cool, so hopefully we can speed that up a little bit. But you're definitely helping out that conversation. So we saw each other together in Vancouver with the workshop that we did with L3 Harris. Again, big shout out to them for helping us put on that event. Pete Gaynor, Barry Moss, Anthony Escato, Jake Shores, all those presenters as well. So I can't bring up that event without thanking all of them for showing up and for you as well. So thanks for coming out to that one.
Thanks for inviting me. It was a great experience. I mean, to hear Pete Gaynor speak was actually quite phenomenal as well. Followed him for a while with studying Homeland Security. He was kind of important to me,
Who knew? Yeah. Well, like the one guy, he has this whole thing about getting the field to become more professional or professionalized. And I'm 100% on that same train. Like we really do. We talked about like this, the catchy next level emergency management. But in my world, or at least in my thought process, that means from us just taking everybody's with like good idea fairies or good idea concepts all the time to actually knowing what you're going to get when you hire an emergency manager. And that takes a lot of cultural change right now for us.
For sure, definitely. I did notice through my studies, I've literally been in college for like ever, I swear. But I noticed through my studies, it is the next step and it is the next level for almost every emergency responder out there. Anyone who's looking for professional education is going the emergency management route. Not sure that they entirely know what they're getting into when they do go that route, because you do take that responder away and put them more into a planning section, which not everyone is ready for yet.
Sure.
You got to be ready to come out of the field, especially for firemen and cops and EMS personnel. If they're not ready to come out of the field yet, they're not really ready for that next level emergency management.
Sure. My thought process is tactical versus strategic. Sometimes when people come out of the field, even myself, it's hard to have, I wouldn't say it's hard. For me, it wasn't hard at all. But I think for a lot of people, it might be hard to retain the same level of passion because you don't have the face-to-face interaction with the individual. And so what we need to do is help people keep the passion, but the professionalism that, fire and police EMS provide when they go out on scene. Like people know who they are. They know what to expect when they arrive. emergency managers kind of all over the place. You get somebody who's really phenomenal like yourself, or you get somebody terrible like me. So you got to figure out, like, there has to be like kind of a middle ground of, in every profession, there's people who do amazing jobs and people who don't do an amazing job, but at least you have an expectation of what they're supposed to do. And that's the part that I get kind of worried about.
Yeah, the passion comes with the reasoning for the swap too, especially if you're coming from the field into the EM career field. For me, my passion was, I was really tired of always responding when we can, on the front end of it, actually do a lot of work to lessen the effects. Is the whole goal of emergency management is to prevent the loss of life and to minimize property damage, essentially. And I'm really passionate about doing that. So that has to come with them. If they're not bringing the passion to make things better on the front end, then they're not going to be as successful or even present that professional image, because they're always gonna fly off to be that responder, which we're not anymore.
The L3 Harris Extreme 400P radio solves problems and is specifically designed for emergency services. How do we know? We field tested it with medical, urban search and rescue, and collapse and confined structures. This radio is amazingly tough. Check out the L3 Harris Extreme 400P radio at l3harris.com right now. How do you spell Doberman Emergency Management? EOP, OEP, HVA, HMP, Thyra, TTX, Drone, PDA. Whenever you need an expert, Doberman Emergency Management field experts are there for support. Contact an expert at DobermanEMG.com today.
CBRNE Convergence, the world's largest conference for the non-conventional threat, is heading back to Orlando between October 28th and 30th, 2024. With 3 days of workshops, lectures, and interactive sessions delivered by speakers from around the world on the latest issues and approaches to CBRNE and hazmat. Make sure to claim your early bird discount by registering now at cbrneworld.com/event/Orlando.
What's that movie? One of Us. I agree with you, everything you're saying right there. And like I said, like, Pete's been putting out some messaging and trying to toe the water, I think, helping people understand, even from his level, like I wouldn't say even from his level, but from his level especially, he's been able to see that the whole gambit of it, because he worked, local, state, and federal, and now private sector. And like, just even his own masterclass on leading during crisis, like, that whole thing is to teach people how to become better leaders. One of many aspects that we need to get better at EM. Before I dive too much into this, though, I gave you like the briefest of background, briefest of introductions. Would you mind, just for the audience sake, talk to people kind of about your background and what's your span of control right now, or what you're in charge of?
For sure. I actually do come from 15 plus years as a first responder. I started my military career off a long time ago as a flight medic with the United States Air Force. Did that through OIF and OEF. And then I am actually a baby emergency manager. I only cross-trained and started really working in this career field approximately 2018.
Wow.
Only professionally came on board in 2022. So I cross-trained in the Air Force, because I was struggling getting a job, and shout out to retired Colonel Howard Murphy. He's the one who came to me and he said, the Air Force has a career field that'll help you get experience to help you get hired somewhere. I was like, what? So here I am, 15 plus years in the military, and decided to change careers. Not too many people do that, just so you know.
Yeah, that's the biggest.
So I did. I changed careers, and very shortly after ended up catching a job at Joint Base Charleston Emergency Management. It was my dream job. That's what I wanted to do. I'm a kid of the 90s, so I grew up. Twister was my favorite movie, and was going to chase tornadoes. Instead, we chased hurricanes here, but same thing, right? A lot of wind, a lot of rain.
Yeah. I feel like, by the way, this is a random thought. I did this random side project called Movie After Action Report. So with my buddy Pat, and we just watched movies and made fun of them. And Twister was one of them. And I realized that Twister is a superhero movie. Did you know that? He's like standing. He's literally he's holding the hand of the chick. I forget the chick's name. His like girlfriend / becomes his like ex-wife. I don't know what. He's holding her hand and she's lifting up in the air. The barn is being ripped away from them from an EF5 tornado, and he's just happily on the ground. The truck gets lifted up, but when he's in the truck is fine. When he's on the ground is fine. It's like the whole movie. He's just like, oh yeah, that's 200 miles an hour plus tornado. I can stand literally right next to it. Totally.
I'm fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
And he's just like, they have all these machines to like figure out where the tornadoes are going to be, obviously, for NWS stuff. But then like at one point in the movie, he's just like, oh yeah, the tornado's coming. You're like, come on, dude. He's the tornado. Anyways, great movie. Random thought. But
stop ruining my childhood favorite.
Hey, they just came out with another one. Have you seen it yet?
I have not. It's one of our plans for National Preparedness Month, actually, is I reserved a big giant screen TV to play an outdoor movie, and we're gonna watch the new Twister film, and it's gonna be, like in the little info carnival type thing. I think it'll be a good time.
Oh my gosh, I'm totally gonna steal that idea. I live here in St. Louis. I'm totally going to try to set that up. We do like a movie night in like September, play Twister. Oh my gosh.
National Preparedness Month. Go ahead with it. Yeah.
It puts on that movie. Is it Paramount?
Well,
Paramount. When I do something like that for the public, I have to reach out and get permission to play it. But oh my gosh, my wheels are already spinning. This is why you're awesome.
I was gonna say,
what a great idea!
Planting seeds in that little brain of yours.
Hey, our exercise for the intentional train derailment that's coming up in October, which you better go to, by the way.
Trying.
So let me give you. This is like the most random episode ever, but dynamic populations. The actual course for everybody who's listening: emergency management response for dynamic populations. It is a certification that we put on. We have lots of people come: DHS, DoD units, emergency managers, first responders, hospital administrators, school administrators. A lot of people take the course, but because the name of the course is so long, we call it DIPOP. And we try to come up with a cool exercise each time. And we were lucky enough to land Ampapar as a sponsor and also as a participant in the training. And they do a lot of stuff with hazmat and rail. And so we asked them if we could do like a blowing up a train. Like the train is the kickoff, but really it's all the other EM stuff that we're going to be focusing on, obviously. But because of Chris, it's a whole lead up. Do you remember? I know exactly where I was standing. We were in the upper floor.
We were right in front of the hazmat guys booth. Actually,
oh yeah, those poor guys. We're so much cooler than them. I just want to throw that out there. It's actually true. But we were standing right there, and I was explaining this to Chris, to you. And you said Hot Mess Express, and I thought that was the most genius name. This for two reasons. So our last exercise was Attack at the Stadium. And honestly, the scenario will probably be roughly about the same, to be honest. I wouldn't say, not really, but the concepts are the same. The scenario will be different. But people were sending us pictures of them in their shirt in stadiums that says Attack at the Stadium on it. I realized maybe like, hey, I'm in the stadium, Attack the Stadium, trying to promote it. I'm like, wait. So we have a branding problem that we had. So Hot Mess Express, hopefully it's a fun shirt. Maybe it'll be a hot pink shirt. I don't know. But I did have somebody reach out and say, hey, I'm willing to go to this exercise as long as I get a Hot Mess Express t-shirt. So I was like, you should just get it tattooed on your arm, DIPOP, Hot Mess. No? Hard pass?
I'm not that committed.
You're not that committed? Well, we had somebody else reach out. So either way, thank you for the fun name of our very serious exercise. Intentional train derailment, how that impacts a stadium, how that impacts a hospital, how that impacts a university potentially, all that stuff.
Oh, for sure.
You try to, a little bit of brevity can go a long way. So thank you for that.
Well, that's actually, you said this was the most random podcast ever, but it's a great segue into the two things that I think make us the best ever, and that is planning and training, which we're going to do both.
Hey, I do hope that you're able to come. And if not this one, obviously another time we'll get you there. But you are also have a passion, obviously, for planning, training, really teaching. Can you walk us through some of the areas that you have found? I wouldn't say deficiencies in emergency management, but maybe gaps that you would like to help out the field so that we can get better at doing some of the solutions you have found.
Well, my focus as of now when it comes to emergency preparedness with the military is more on, of course, counterterrorism and weapons of mass destruction. So the number one thing that we teach is seaborne defense. So our goals are training people for wartime scenarios. Here, actually, I am recently going to jump in with our local CERT and have been asked to start getting them prepared as well. One of the things that they've realized first responders are, which still blows my mind with everything that's gone on over the last 20 years, we're not looking and we're not situationally aware enough to notice the things that are out of place when it comes to weapons of mass destruction. And that's an emergency management event that has to be focused on as well.
Right.
What comes out of that? It's just a complete snowball effect of responders responding, responders getting injured. Tens of thousands of people are now involved. Every active shooter event, emergency management's at the table when we're doing lessons learned and after actions reports, but emergency management was not there in the beginning.
Bingo.
We're not present at the training. It's one of the things that I really do think, and I shared recently on LinkedIn about interoperability in reference to training and working with your local governments, because it's not something that I see very much of, at least not here. And I would love to see that here. One of the things that I focused on wholeheartedly with my graduate project was, what can I give to my community that will also get me graduated? And that was a plan, essentially, a plan of preparedness and a plan of training. Because in the end, that is how we're going to save lives and minimize loss of infrastructure.
In the emergency management response for dynamic populations course, you'll master the art of managing large, diverse populations, like those at schools, hospitals, amusement parks, or stadiums. These scenarios demand rapid, adaptable responses where command and control, evacuation, mass care, medical transport and triage, public messaging, and counter-seaborne considerations are all put to the test. From October 22nd through 24th in Pueblo, Colorado, you'll dive into DIPOP training with the capstone Hot Mess Express exercise, taking on the role of an emergency manager as you lead your organization through chaos of a catastrophic train derailment. This high-intensity experience will push your skills to the limit as you work to protect and coordinate these ever-changing populations. Get ready to elevate your readiness in the most complex dynamic environments with DIPOP 2024. Class size is limited. Sign up today at thereadinesslab.com.
The people forget the reason why emergency management was started. They think the precursor of emergency management was civil defense, which is actually not true. The precursor to emergency management was at a train derailment in Waverly, Tennessee, that killed a bunch of first responders, and they formed FEMA in order to save first responders' lives.
Yep.
And the question I like to ask people is, I think emergency managers can be first responders, even though they are not tactical. So there's that. But when I, using the term colloquially, right, like, fire, police, EMS. If I go to them and I say, do you think the role of the emergency manager is to save your life? And if I go to the emergency manager and say, do you think your role is to save their lives? And usually the answer from both ends is no. But that's the reason why it was started.
That's a horrible answer.
But that's the reality. We've gotten so far into the process and into really great ideas, humanitarian ideas, which I consider myself a humanitarian. But are we actually saving and sustaining life?
Well, no.
And I've said this ad nauseum on the podcast, but I'm going to say it again because I want to beat it into people's head. We use the word protection wrong because of a mission set from DHS. If I have people in a shelter and I'm protecting them against the storm, I'm not shooting the storm, right? Versus law enforcement trying to protect other people might be shooting the bad guy, right?
Yep.
The word protection just means keeping people safe. Emergency managers really need to focus on the coordination and collaboration piece of protection. And if they do that holistically, we could simplify the foundation in order to specialize from there on up. There are a billion different jobs out there with a billion different needs, and that's fine, and lots of different certs to help you figure out which path you want to take. But that baseline needs to remain the same. I could talk about that forever, and I usually do on the show, so I'll try to shut up. But
Well, no, I like that because even me, I don't, out of all of that unique definition that DHS gave us of preparedness, planning, protection is one of them, but we do focus a whole lot more on preparedness and planning, and very rarely actually focus on recovery. I won't lie, but in mitigation, we talk a lot about all that, but protection is one of the ones that's in our core definition that I don't think even us as emergency managers, now on the federal WMD side, yeah, we're always thinking about protecting yourself, protecting those around you, that sort of stuff. But locally, I don't think that is something that we push a lot. And you guys actually have a shirt, which I have, by the way, that says emergency managers because firefighters need heroes too.
yes.
And since I volunteered at the fire department, it's a great kick. But I was like, there's got to be somebody that keeps y'all squared away. Because if you don't have somebody like me telling you it's time for you to go to the rehab tent, ain't gonna lie, you ain't gonna go.
Yeah, exactly. And they need to do their tactical job without any disruption. If they have to pull away from the tactical job to do more of the strategic stuff or the coordination stuff, they can't be effective in their job. I'm not saying emergency managers should be embedded with a firefighter as he's trying to blow down the door and kill it with water, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to say, hey, while he or she is doing that, I need to be able to do something else to help keep feeding that, allow that to happen. And, it's like tactical EM is strategically tactical EM. I don't know. It's kind of a funny way to say it. But
I like it. We'll brand it. Let's brand it.
Thanks. Strategic tactical. I'm just going to put that on a t-shirt.
Strategically tactical.
Strategically tactical. Yeah. I'm literally going to put that on a shirt right now.
You're welcome.
You give me all the good ideas. We're going to start paying you.
I was going to say, I think it's time.
There's always a group when I talk about this that pushes back so much. They never want standards. They don't think emergency managers should do anything in response. They don't. But then, I'm like, what are you then? You might be like a really mediocre project manager because you don't have any project at PMP or anything. At the same time, you want to be a project manager, not in response. The word protection doesn't necessarily have to be the action. It can be the descriptive. If you're mitigating is protecting. Planning is protecting, especially effective planning with great training, all that stuff. So for the last few minutes here, if you're going to be talking about things emergency managers can do to save and sustain lives, what are some of the things that within your scope that you were like, okay, we need to make sure that these are required besides strategically tactical?
Strategically tactical. One of my goals here is to train with first responders because, like we've said, in the Air Force, we actually fall as emergency managers. We fall under a group called the Mission Support Group. And I truly wholeheartedly feel like it is my job as an emergency manager to ensure that the mission goes on, even if I'm doing it from a computer in an EOC or a computer in a tactical operations center, and I'm not out there physically hands-on something, managing and preparing those responders for that event is how I feel like I can save the most lives. Yes, now granted, we do need to prepare the communities for certain things. Communities should know the difference between shelter in place and evacuation, stuff of that nature. But I really feel like a huge focus does need to be put on our first responders. There's a lack there because they have that, and I know because I am one, have that, ooh, let's go kind of training about them, and not that whole preparedness, think about this, think of our second, third order effects that are going to happen from this event. If we do go in here, if we do bleed this valve, if we do decide we're going to cut the stem, if we do decide we're going to evacuate, what's happening next? And that's the train of thought that I want to get on our emergency responders and our first responders so that we could save their lives and continue the mission.
Mic drop. Mic doesn't drop, but that was a mic drop moment.
It was a good effort.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm helping. Chris, seriously, thank you so much for coming on here. Everything you're saying, you plant lots of very lucrative seeds, Hot Mess Express, strategically tactical, how to help out the responders, how to help out your community. You're just a person who's larger than life. And that was apparent when I met you in Baltimore, again in Vancouver, again on this episode. You're a person who lives the persona that I hope all emergency managers can really articulate. And that is genuinely helping people and having a passion for doing it right. And we've been on that train for a while now as a company, and really as podcasters across the board of trying to find just really incredible people. And like I said at the beginning, one of us. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to me.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. This is a great experience. I always learn something talking to you anyway.
Well, I just try to be you every day, and it'll get better. So hopefully we see you and many other people at Hot Mess Express Dynamic Populations Training in October. And with that, we'll see you for the next one. Peace.